Hello, global residents and colleagues around the world. This is your host for tonight, Edward Tung from the American Society of Plastic Surgeons International Resident Forum podcast team. This podcast is an official platform directly organized and supported by the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, created to spotlight global voices in plastic surgery. It is a place where we share your life stories, your professional journeys, and the issues, challenges, and concerns you believe deserve to be heard in our global community. If you are interested in sharing your story or perspective, please feel free to reach out to us at ASPSIRF podcast team at gmail.com. Today, we have invited our president, Jing, who is the American Society Plastic Surgeons area podcast team leader, also the leader of the RF team. And I have so many questions that I think it will be interesting for the global residents to know. For example, what is the differences between American Society of Plastic Surgeons with the ISAPS community? How is it different? How did our presidents become involved with the global community? And where did he come from? Hi, Jean.
Hello, hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I'm currently a fifth year resident training at Oxford Deanery. I'm doing a year out in Taipei at the moment to focus on nerve reconstruction. And before that, I was originally born in Malaysia, and I went to the UK for my medical school and my surgical training. And as it goes, I kind of uh, settled down in the UK now to get trained in this field.
Yeah, I think you are a perfect symbol or a perfect example for many international students around the world. Basically, you demonstrated how you came from a different foreign country and you accomplished medical school in a very well-known society, especially in like England's plastic surgery society. And I'm just wondering how competitive it was for you to kind of get into medical school or even to be selected as the plastic surgeons in England or British community.
Um, I mean, there's during my time when I applied for residency, we have in the UK we have a structured national recruitment process where all the candidates from around the country apply through an open system that you put in your CV, your logbook, and you answer certain questions to see whether you qualify to get an interview spots. And during the interview process, you have to go through different stations to, for example, there's one station focused on your portfolio or on your logbook. They will ask you a few questions about what you have done there, just to check your understanding and to check that you are prepared to move on to become a resident. And also, we also have some clinical scenarios where they'll again ask you a few basic questions about how you manage emergency take patients, and also how you manage routine post elective patients to make sure that patient will be safe when you become a resident, because you'll be the next port of call after the attendings. Um, and once you have gone through this process, you'll be ranked nationally, and based on your ranking, you choose the deanery or the school that you want to practice in, and then you get matched into the process. I would say that as you might imagine, I come from a from an Asia country, and certainly English is not my first language. So there are certain challenges, but I think that being able to overcome those challenges prepare me quite well to go on to international meeting and to understand how different perspective works and to see things in a different ways. And I think those certainly helps in getting a residency to make you stand out rather than to come from the UK, for example. I mean, everybody has different strength, and I certainly think that coming from a different background prepare me quite well for that.
Wow, wow, that's a very, very nice touch. Well, since now that you are already in training as a plastic surgeon, I'm wondering, like, if you can, give the audience some introduction about like British Plastic Surgery Society. Like, for example, how many years do you need to train for, and what would be the curriculum structure from year one to the final year, and also what would be the some challenges that you probably will face, and is it? I think you are doing some fellowship for abroad, like is it required for all residents? You know.
Yeah. So in the UK, the way it works at the moment is we do 2 years of what we call house officer and senior house officer job. Basically, is a year of interns, and the second year is sort of like a senior interns that you kind of rotate through different medical emergency department and ops and gynae if you want to, and some surgical specialty. And those 2 years you'll be rotating every 4 monthly. And once you achieve the competency for this internship years, uh, you'll be progressing through again a competitive process to get into a core surgical training, and that itself will last for 2 years. Um, and during the core surgical training, you'll be rotating every 6 monthly through different surgical specialties of your choice. If you already decided you might want to progress to become a plastic uh, surgeons or residents, then you can choose the rotation more plastic surgical team during those 2 years. Um, and once you have done the 4 years of those training, you'll be, uh, like I mentioned before, you'll be applying nationally to a plastic surgery residency, and
Right.
which will last for another 6 years to complete. And at the moment, it's a modular kind of competency based competency that you have to achieve. So you go through the logbook. You have to achieve competency in the core procedures, the index procedures, and both for emergency procedures and elective procedures. We also look at other generic proficiency like your professional skills and knowledge, how you manage patients, your communication skills, and so on. And once you achieve the core competency, we also look at your portfolio, make sure that I think it's similar to other countries. You have to do certain amount of presentations, publications, audits, and stuff like that. These are the core training pathway that people normally go through. You can also choose to do research before you apply for residency. Like you mentioned before, it's quite competitive. So some people take 2 years out to do a master degree, or 3 or 4 years out to do a doctorate degree on top of that before they get into the plastic residency. So it's quite a comprehensive training in a sense that they prepare you quite well for all the foundations that you need to become a great plastic surgeon at the end of it. To make sure you are ready, both in terms of they also train you in terms of your managing skills, leadership skills, so that you are ready to be attending to manage your teams or multidisciplinary team at the end of it. Go back to your question, you asked about the fellowship. It's something that you can consider doing, provided that your training supervisor is happy that you achieve certain amount of core competency before they sign you off to do a fellowship. And in my case, I think the opportunity for me arise because I'm doing a nerve reconstruction fellowship under Professor David Tung, who is world leaders and pioneers in peripheral nerve reconstruction. So once the opportunity once the opportunity arises, I applied for it, and I discussed with my supervisor, and they are quite supportive of this. After I explained to them what the training pathway involved in Taipei, so I actually discussed with Professor Chuang before I came over to make sure that it suits my curriculum back home, so that I can do a year out before I go back to finish my training.
Wow, like I'm wondering, like I mean you are here for I guess like nerve reconstruction microsurgical training, like how many free flaps or how much microsurgical training do you think you have gotten in back in England before? And also I also like to know, like, how, since you've mentioned now, like, do you feel there is a difference between Taiwanese or I would say maybe use it as like a Asians example of an Asian plastic surgery society compared to some Western plastic surgery society, like how you feel there is a difference?
I mean, I'll attempt to answer the question because I can't represent the whole UK trainees because I only work in certain units and I'm doing quite specialized fellowship. And again, I can't, I don't think can't really answer on behalf of the Taiwanese society as well. But from my
It's
experience
okay.
that
It's your observation. Yeah.
yeah, from observation, personal experience is that I think in the UK is the training system is more modular based, and also at certain stage of our training we have to follow this European Working Time Directive, and that kind of limit the amount of time we spend in the hospital. And as surgical any surgical specialty require you to have hands-on experience, so I think in a sense that that can limit our hands-on exposure. But in terms of learning, I think the UK is unique in a way that because the training system is very comprehensive and in a sense modular based. So we make sure that we get through the curriculum in a very systematic ways. And if there's any issues during the training, it's always addressed very fully during yearly appraisal. In a sense, at the end of our training, we might not have the equal volume of operating volume compared to due to the time that we spend in terms of operating and doing other things like publication, presentation, management stuff. But the products of the training, I would say that we are quite unique in the sense that all the trainees that come through the pathway are uh, normally well prepared to at least to be a quite how do you say it, to become quite well prepared to manage uh, all the emergency procedures, and the specialized stuff can always be picked up later on because we have the sufficient foundation skills. And from my experience in Taipei, I've only been here for half a year. I would say that the Taiwan system is more, yeah, it's very apprentice. It's almost like a perennial kind of relationship. So like you work like in a family. So you have the professor, and under the professor you have the what they call the VS here, or attending in other country. And then after under the attending you have the chief residents, followed by residents of other training years. And every single operation I kind of join in, there's always a team there led by the professor, and then you have the chief residents there, and then you have more junior members of the staff, for example, residents from the first year or second year, and then occasionally in certain units you have the fellow there. The knowledge and the skills are passed on from the almost like a next rank. So, for example, the chief residents might focus on, if it's a two teams approach, the chief residents might take the junior residents through certain procedures on the harvesting, for example, sural nerve graft or harvesting a flap. And then the fellow or the attending or the professor will be focusing on another part of the body, for example, exploring the brachial plexus, preparing the area, the recipient sites, and then do the micro afterwards. And everybody had found their roles in that team. And due to the volumes of it, people kind of rotate through different parts of the operation. The volume of operating that I get in Taiwan is, I can say, is definitely uh, compared to the same time frame, is definitely more than the UK. Just from the hands-on point of view, so I think
Yeah.
that's the main difference. And also, I mean, the only downside, obviously, from this is the work-time balance. So I found that most of the residents in Taiwan, they spend a lot of time in the hospital, and not to say that they don't have personal time, but for example, their annual leave is less than 14 days a year, and they have to get special approval to go to international meetings, and not all the leaves are approved because they have staff constraint. So I think that's a main difference. Every system has their own pros and cons. So I think somewhere in the middle ground would be the best. But like I say, you have to work your way around the system and find your way to make sure that you are trained in whichever system that you are in.
That's like a perfect example for this today's topic. And it's like a perfect gateway to our today's topic as well. Basically, that you're the president of the international forum team. So you are the combination of the Western and Asian or other European, other continents countries. Like you need to be able to understand all this culture and being able to know how to lead the community. Well, the first comes first. I would like to know, like, how did you get involved and become this position first?
I applied for the ASPS members a few years ago, and the opportunity arose when Dr. Lynn Jeffers started this initiative under the umbrella of Global Partners. It's kind of a new branch under the Global Partners for the residents, so that we have, as residents, we have a platforms to get together and to do something together globally. I think it's the way that Dr. Jeffers envisioned at the time was that the residents can get to know each other early on, and then we can actually focus on things that matters residents from around the continents the most, and we can bring it to the highest level so that we can discuss it and to address it. The way I joined is I applied for it because our year was the first year. We wrote a personal statement, and then after some selection, I was elected as a chair. There wasn't a specific. I wish I can say there's a specific pathway for it. There wasn't actually a defined pathway at the time when I was chosen.
Yeah.
So I think the reason, but I would like to think that the reason that I was chosen is because I, after joining the meeting and had a discussion with Dr. Jeffers, I found that the vision that Dr. Jeffers has was what I was hoping to achieve at the time. I was like, oh, this looked like a. I know at the time there was other platform like EcoPlus, like you mentioned, or other national societies. So why do we need this international residence
Yeah.
forum? So I think what really attracted me was the way that ASPS was willing to support the residents and to support us in whichever activities that we propose. So we have quite regular, for example, the first year we have quite regular meetings and surveys that the international residence member could have a chance to discuss what they would like to achieve throughout the calendar year. And some of the things that we have managed to achieve so far are quite amazing, to be honest. Within a year or two to get into the global partner webinar series and to even come up with our own podcast series that you are leading now. And I think
Yeah.
I think the other way also is they actually trusted the residents quite a lot compared to other societies where you have to go through formal approval. Whereas in ASPS International Residence Forum, I found that the leadership are very supportive of us to put on our own proposal. And we also have, excuse me, we also have very talented IT team and the backend team to help us to get all these podcasts out quite professionally and very quickly. So I think in that sense, it's different from other societies because we have all the support system already in place, and also the freedom they give us is just astonishing.
Was it? I would like to know, since you've already mentioned, like, oh my God, like I feel like you are just a Superman. You are everywhere. You are in the operating theater. You are publishing publications, and you are organizing meetings, and you are associating some with some colleagues, some meetups, and I'm just wondering, like, whether all this time is overwhelming you, especially since you are doing fellow exchange program at Taiwan, or even like 1 or 2 years ago when you even have to maintain your hospital work. Like, how was it for you, like, during that time in the beginning?
I'll say it come down suddenly to my upbringing. I mean, in Asian culture, when you promise to do something, you kind of make sure that it gets done. So I think it's the same with if you're agreeing to a leadership position, you have to have the passion and the drive and the vision before you agree to do it. and that is kind of being responsible to yourself because you are going to commit time for it, and also being responsible for the organization that you try to lead. I think that's what define. I mean, that's what gave me the. Uh, I wouldn't then give it the drive to continue to do it, despite sometimes I feel that maybe I should just focus more, for example, on one side, like just my training, and not taking up so much of other things that equally takes up my time. But I think the reason why I continue doing it is because like I mentioned earlier, I see the values in starting something from scratch, and I also see the trust and the ownership that ASPS provided to the International Residence Forum. I think time management is something that is quite a paradox. The more you do, the more things you do, the more time you find in your day to day. And if you have the passion and the correct reason to do something, I think you definitely be able to find time for it. So to come back to these leadership things, I think it's something that is different from being a manager. I think leaders, you have to have the passion, the drive, and the courage to do something, even though sometimes you might feel that it's almost seem impossible. I think if you have the courage to do it and the right reason to do it, and also you also have to remember that being a leader doesn't just mean that you're in charge of other people. You're actually responsible for the people that you're in charge of. So I think in that sense, I take on all this leadership role quite. Um, I don't take them lightly. I think that I would like to think that if I take on these jobs, I would make sure that I get results out from it. So, which is why I always try to find time despite my busy schedules. And I think the other important part of being a leader is you, to be a leader, so you have to have people that trust in you. And I found myself quite lucky because for the past 2 years, we have international residence members committee that are very supportive, and we supported each other for all these podcasts and webinars that we have been conducting. We also have members that are passionate in their own proposal, and all of these members kind of create these small bubbles of magics, and this kind of bubble of magic spread within our international residence member societies. And because of these people, I think that's why our International Residence Forum is able to flourish. And I hope that this will continue.
That's a very well put. I'm just wondering, since you are the leader of this society, then the main meetings would be those like plastic surgery, the meeting, like those kind of meetings that you would need to go. Maybe there would be a lot of traveling you would need to do, like for example, Argentina in May this year. Like, could you give us a meeting, an international meeting that was unique to you, that you feel, this experience really, really inspired you? Because right now we are the global residents around the world and we are listening to you. We're trying to figure out, like, we haven't done so much traveling like you. We're trying to figure out whether spending, like, I don't know, 1,000 US dollars for the ticket price, along with all the expenses that will come along with it, just to join a meeting for a presentation. Could you tell us like a unique experience that really inspired you, and what you really learned the most and got the most out from all these presentations and meetings?
I mean, I do find it sometimes is can be overwhelming um, to try to manage between your training and to attend all these international meetings and national meetings. If I have to say, one of the most fruitful experience I got in one of these meetings is the PSTM meeting in New Orleans just passed. I've been going to
Right.
the I've been going to the PSTM meeting twice in a row now. I think what I found really fruitful is not just being able to present to international audience, to connect to global colleagues that you don't normally meet. Um, I think one of the experience I found really fruitful is I was able to I was able to have a face-to-face conversation with uh, some of the mentors that I met throughout the years, and also in these meetings. And by attending this meeting, you found that they're actually ever so willing to help if you approach them, and they are not just someone that appear in textbooks or appear in webinars. When you attend this meeting, you found this personal connection that, or you can build this rapport, and you find that if you really ask for help, or if you're really passionate about the subjects, you realize that all these legends, they are ever so willing to give you advice or even mentor you as to what's the next step could be, so that you can avoid certain pitfalls along the way. And I also managed to gain some friendships to people that I would never thought would become my friends, uh, because they already achieved so much in their careers. And this friendship, I think, is just amazing, and one of the most fruitful things that you can get from attending all these meetings. And certainly, the other aspect of it is you get opportunity to collaborate with your colleagues. And if you have a project in mind, for example, um, for the International Residence Forum, if we have discussed certain projects while we are in the meetings, and some of these projects go on to become a reality uh, after we sit down together and discuss together. I think all these collaboration, academic projects um, that can come from international meetings, um, something that if you don't attend, you might be able to send out cold emails, but if you give a bit of personal touch to it, I think you gain friendships and long term collaboration from this. So I think in terms of the money wise, there are always bursaries or awards that you can apply to support your trip there. So I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. So I think for residence purpose, I would definitely encourage people to attend. Definitely for the Global Plastic Surgery Congress that is coming up in Buenos Aires in May this year. It'll be amazing because this is a totally new international collaboration and international conference, and it's being led by SCAPER and jointly organized alongside ASPS. I think this is one very unique global congress that people certainly shouldn't miss. And if you're interested in it, the program is online. Just make sure you check it out and register early so that you don't miss the opportunity. And there's already great program lining up for the whole 3 days.
Yeah, I do have to add so much on that. Like, honestly, because I personally was at PSTM 2025 in New Orleans, it really just opened up the whole plastic surgery world door for me for my life. Like, I was able to join the International Resident Forum team, and because of joining this society, it pretty much came with the bonus perks, like the whole year of free subscription of the POS journal. And also, I was assigned with a great mentor, Dr. Luis. I mean, who would know I would have a mentor from South America? And the first meeting, like when I was meeting with him, like I really thought was going to just be like he was going to tell me, you should read this book and that book, during your residency year. This is how you're gonna survive with, like, all this extra hard work. But no, he was telling me about, you know personal branding. The whole core of being the plastic surgeon is about how to be your own personal branding. And I can talk so much about that, but like basically this PSTM meeting really just brings so much for my life and opens up the whole new door for me. And since we are talking about the PSTM meeting and as well as the Argentina's meeting, I really like to know from Dr. Jin, like what do you feel would be the future direction for the ASPS IRF the society? And since you are the one steering the wheel, and you also know there is some really mature society like the ICOPLAS or the ISAPS, like what would you feel the direction for the society like the SPS IRF team that would be unique for the global residents, and how this will help us?
I think if I have to pinpoint a defining difference between the International Residence Forums and ICOPLAS and ISAPS is that I think as the Committee of International Residence Forum, like I said, is more you have more freedom to explore what matters more to you. For example, I'm not sure about your experience. We literally give out freedom for the committee members who are interested in organizing events or in organizing podcasts, um, to have the backup so that whatever they propose can be can be materialized in quite a quick turnaround time. I'm not sure whether that's your experience of it, but I would say that we definitely work hard to make sure that what our members propose get done. And the other thing that I would say we are trying to achieve under ASPS is to organize this exchange program of exchange short-term observership. It's something that we have been arranging for the past 2 years, but due to the logistic issues, there are certain things to be ironed out. But we have started this and achieving quite a good milestone by having the first talk by speakers from actually leaders from different continents, from Argentina, South America, Mexico, to Singapore, Asia, and to North America. Different leaders from different centers have come together to give a talk during the PSTM about how to get a fellowship opportunity in their center. And by starting all this, what we're hoping to achieve within the near future is that we'll be able to get parties together, people who wanted to do a fellowship, to tell them where they would like to do it. If you're IRF members, we'll try to help to iron out the logistics by being the middleman and to match you up with the fellowship center that you're interested in. And the way we do it, uh, as we are a new organization, we can't actually sponsor the whole trip, but we can manage the logistic of um, getting you connected to the center that you would like to do the fellowship in. And we'll also try to match our international residence forum committee members or our members to see who is willing to host this uh, this short-term observership or fellowship in their center, and vice versa. So by doing this reciprocate exchange program, we hope to cut down the cost so that people can just focus on the short-term training itself rather than have to bear the accommodation cost and the arrangement cost. And over the long run, if we manage to get this off the ground, we hope to get some sponsorship so that we can eventually maybe offer some awards to certain center of excellence or certain fellowship proposal of excellence in the long run. But in the short term, we're trying to set up this system so that this can be done a bit more easily. For example, if you are from somewhere in South Africa or in Asia, you've never been to the North America, US, or never been to Australia, you would like to get a fellowship there, because ASPS Global Partners has so many members leaders that are leaders in their individual countries. We can do that a bit more easily compared to if you send out cold email yourself. So that is what we can offer you from the IRF point of view. I think that set us apart from ICOPlus. I would like to think that this is quite unique at the moment, and we are doing everything we can to get it off the ground.
Wow, that's like something very, very new, and I really, really believe like social connection is really the new trend of how you can walk your career path in your future. And I think this, if we actually implement this, then we can really get the social network going for the global residents. And I'm not really advertising of coming up for our platform to perform, but I'm telling you because the ASPS IRF team is a very new and just started to grow society. So there is a huge number of rooms for you for the global residents to show spotlights for themselves. And so if the global residents really come up to our show and talk about it, the topic, and then show publish it in their Instagram or Facebook that I was invited by the show by the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. Boom, this is the idea of personal branding. Like you don't have to wait for 6 years. You don't have to wait until when you are the attending or the visiting staff in order to do personal branding for yourself. The global residents, you can just come up to our platform and being able to talk about your issues. For example, the Ozempic face or the ChatGPT writing in plastic surgery. Like those are the new topics that maybe you don't have to write a essay or publish a journal in order to be seen. You don't have to do so much of the work in order to have the spotlight on yourself. You can just come up and just have our conversation for 45 minutes and publish this on your Instagram and Facebook that, oh, I was invited by the American Society of Plastic Surgeon for a talk about a recently hot topic. Boom. That's personal branding. And I think that's really going to help us for all the people who are connected. And eventually, when we get this society going, we will start to have more people who just use the platform to dance and to perform, to shine the spotlight on themselves. So I really encourage all the International Residents Forum, if you really are having an idea that you hope to address in Plastic Surgery Society, please feel free to reach out to us at ASPSIRF podcast team at gmail.com. Send your CV, send a story that you want to talk about, a topic, or an interesting stuff that happened in the news. You just want to talk about yourself, sure, come up and we'll give you the stage. Finally, the final touch from our president. I do want to do the final touch to make the conclusion for our show tonight. Can you give us a recommendation or a key tip that you would give yourself if you are 6 years ago? Since now that you have done your fellowship training for 2 years, you have done all this exploration and international meetings and all the training in Taiwan's and England society. If you are just a second year resident starting out your journal, but you've already know of all these experiences, what would you tell yourself to do differently, or what would be the advice that you give to yourself?
I think if I have to go back in time, if there's such a thing, I think one of the things that I will encourage myself to do is to get myself out there early on in my career, like what Edward just mentioned. Uh, New thing is about personal branding. You have to do it quite early on in your career. You have to put your works out in the world so that people can know you. Sometimes you don't have to do something to a perfectly before you put it out. You just have to put yourself out there, take some feedbacks and improve it. And doing that way, people realize that, oh, this guy actually interested in my field. You'll be surprised by how many people are waiting to help you if you make yourself known. So so to come back to the question, I would definitely encourage myself to get involved in international societies. And like I mentioned early, International Residence Forum is the perfect society for you to join right now, um, as we are we are at a growth phase. So we encourage people to contribute, and everybody ideas get promoted and get done. So if I were to go back in time, I would definitely ask myself to join the IRF. And the second thing I would say is you don't have to feel that you don't belong, even you are quite new to the arena. So if you go to international meeting, have the courage to stand out there and ask questions and to discuss things that interest you. So I mean, everybody actually like discussion. Even what you say might not, you might not have the same amount of experience as other more senior speakers, but by having this discussion, it actually tune your mind to learn deeper, so that next time when you come across the same case, you'll be like, oh, I discussed this case with this guy in that meeting, and you have more personal take on it rather than just rehearsing from a textbook. I think that's uh, what is useful to that is also one of the reasons why it's useful to go to international meetings quite early on. So we have one coming out, which is a Global Plastic Surgery Congress. If you haven't signed up already, make sure that you don't miss the opportunity. Like I say, it's one of the most unique meeting that is going to be held this year in May. So it will be in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And the next thing that I would say is everybody can be a leader at any stage of your career. You don't have to. I think being a leader is not about the position that you're being given. It's about the influence that you're going to have on people around you. So you can start with yourself. If so, I think every leaders has normally have to be able to influence themselves in their daily practice before they are able to influence others. So even with a small group of people, if you have something that you're trying to achieve, once you have done it, you can notice this ripple effect that you can see in other groups. So being a leader early on train you to take on the responsibility and have more courage to stand out. I think that's the three things that I would definitely tell myself if I can meet my younger self.
Yeah, well, really well said. Really well said. To be involved in earlier on, I just have the other final touch though. Like I'm curious to know, since you say basically being involved with all this international society earlier on is to gain the social connection and exposure. Like the final touch, like how does all this shape you, and you know how do you look at yourself, the way the person you are in this position.
I would say that through this experience, you certainly grow to be more resilient. You also develop your courage because things don't always turn out to be the way that you envision them to be, or things certainly doesn't happen according to my own timeline that I envision. But if you have the courage to persist and persevere, and if you show that you have the passion for it, most of the time you'll find like-minded people eventually will join you, and things will happen. I think that's what I truly value after my experience to take on these leadership roles in different societies. And certainly, I found that in ASPS is one of the most I get the most amazing support that I have by joining these societies. If anybody is interested to do something great or explore something new and innovative, I think the International Residence Forum is a perfect platform for you guys. So if anybody hasn't joined already, be a SPS members. It's only $200 a year. You get all the educational resources for free, including the PRS journals, AdNet, and like I say, you get to organize your own events, help in the podcast, do the webinars, and we're also setting up our own newsletters. So there are plenty of opportunity for you to put yourself out there to let people know about you. So if you haven't signed up already, make sure you sign up today.
Okay, thank you so much for Jin, Dr. Jin. Thank you so much. I really think that was very inspiring for global international residents, and I hope everyone who listened to it will be thinking about personal branding and how to put yourself out there to perform on the stage. Thank you very much for tonight. We will see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Enhance Your Practice podcast series brought to you by ASPS University. You can listen to our other episodes on any of the podcast platforms where they are currently available, or you can download recordings directly from ASPS EdNet. New seasons and episodes coming soon on practice management. Please contact ASPS Education with your feedback and suggestions for future podcast topics. Thank you for tuning in.